looking for something.
You're not.
Hey thrill seekers, if you're craving non-stop suspense, jaw-dropping visuals, and survival stories that push people to the edge, then you're in for a wild ride. Disaster movies on Prime Video are the perfect adrenaline boost, loaded with everything from fiery infernos and deadly tsunamis to full-blown end-of-the-world chaos. Before we dive in, help me hit 1,000 subscribers. Your support truly keeps this binge-watching party going. Now, buckle up. Here are the most gripping disaster movies on Amazon Prime that you cannot afford to skip. Number 7, Into the Storm 2014. If you're into chaotic weather mayhem and edge-of-your-seat survival, Into the Storm is definitely one to check out. Set in the town of Silverton, Oklahoma, this found-footage-style thriller throws you right into the path of monstrous tornadoes tearing everything apart. The story is told from multiple angles, including a school vice principal trying to protect his sons and a team of storm chasers chasing the ultimate shot. Now, let's be real, the plot isn't going to win any awards for depth. It's packed with familiar disaster movie tropes, but the visual effects, chef's kiss. It's a pure adrenaline rush, and if you like Twister, you'll feel right at home here. It's a solid pick if you just want to sit back and enjoy nature's fury on full blast. No emotional investment required. Number 6, The Quake 2018. If you're looking for a disaster movie with both emotional punch and intense visuals, The Quake is a solid choice. This Norwegian thriller picks up a few years after The Wave, with geologist Christian Eikjord now struggling with PTSD, starting to sense something's seriously wrong beneath the streets of Oslo. What makes this film stand out isn't just the earthquake destruction, which is truly nerve-wracking, but the way it blends human vulnerability with large-scale chaos. Christian's desperation to protect his family gives the story real heart, and I have to say, the cinematography does a great job making you feel the tension as buildings crumble and time runs out. That said, it leans a little hard into the psychological trauma angle, and as a sequel, it doesn't feel quite as fresh as The Wave, but still, when it comes to non-Hollywood disaster flicks, The Quake absolutely holds its ground. It's gripping, emotional, and visually stunning. Definitely one to keep on your radar. Number 5, The Wave 2015. If you think only Hollywood knows how to do disaster movies, The Wave is here to prove you wrong, and in the most intense, heart-pounding way possible. This Norwegian thriller, directed by Roar Uthaug, is a standout in the genre. It follows geologist Christian Eikjord, who starts to suspect that the mountain towering over the scenic town of Geiranger is about to give way, and he's absolutely right. When disaster finally strikes, it's terrifying. A massive 80-meter tsunami barrels toward the town, and Christian races to save his family before the wave hits. What I love about The Wave is that it doesn't just rely on explosions and destruction, it brings real emotional depths. The characters feel raw and grounded, especially Christian, whose panic and determination hit you hard. The pacing is tight, the effects are surprisingly powerful for a non-Hollywood film, and the visuals are beautifully gritty. No, it doesn't completely reinvent the disaster genre, but it doesn't have to. It takes a classic survival setup and makes it deeply personal and authentic. If you're into disaster flicks that aren't just noise and chaos, but actually make you feel something, The Wave is absolutely worth the watch. Number 4, These Final Hours 2013.
As I speak to you right now, it's
is making its way towards our fair nation.
It always said that God has a perfect plan for everyone. Do you ever think you might end up in hell?
What would you do if the world was ending in 12 hours? These final hours dives headfirst into that terrifying question. This Australian apocalyptic thriller paints a raw, unflinching picture of humanity in its final moments, and it hits hard. We follow James, a conflicted young man who ditches his girlfriend to head to one last chaotic end-of-the-world party. But things take a turn when he crosses paths with Rose, a lost little girl he rescues from a horrific situation. Their uneasy bond becomes the emotional heart of the film. As they trek through the crumbling streets of Perth, filled with rioting, destruction, and desperate people, James starts to question everything about who he is and how he wants to spend his final hours. And honestly, that's what makes this film stick with you. It's not just about the end of the world. It's about redemption, conscience, and unexpected human connection. Yes, some parts might feel familiar if you've seen other End of Days movies, but the emotional punch and bleak realism give these final hours a hauntingly unique edge. It's not flashy, it's not comforting, but it's powerful, and it'll leave you thinking about how you'd spend your last day on Earth. Number 3, The Finest Hours, 2016.
I repeat, conditions hazardous. We've got an 18-foot predator.
If you're into true stories of courage against impossible odds, The Finest Hours might just be your next must-watch. This gripping 2016 film brings to life one of the greatest small boat rescues in U.S. Coast Guard history. Set in 1952, it follows Bernie Weber, played with quiet strength by Chris Pine, as he leads a tiny rescue crew into a brutal nor'easter to save the survivors of the SS Pendleton, an oil tanker literally ripped in half by the storm. Now, yes, some parts of the script feel a bit by the numbers, and the CGI sometimes leans more towards spectacle than realism. But honestly, the emotional weight carries it through. There's something incredibly powerful about watching ordinary men brave towering waves and bone-chilling cold with nothing but determination and a tiny lifeboat. It's not just a disaster flick. It's a tribute to real heroism, and it hits that note hard. The high seas tension, the cinematography, and the emotional stakes make it a rewarding watch, even if you know how the story ends. This one's for fans of maritime rescues, historical action, and character-driven heroism that doesn't need capes or explosions to impress. Number 2, The Impossible, 2012. This one hits hard. The Impossible isn't just a disaster movie, it's an emotional gut punch based on a true story. Directed by J.J. Bayona, the film brings to life the terrifying real events of the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami through the eyes of a family vacationing in Thailand. When the tsunami strikes, Maria, played by the incredible Naomi Watts, and her eldest son Lucas are swept away together, battered and separated from the rest of their family. Meanwhile, her husband, Henry, Ewan McGregor, fights his own desperate battle for survival, determined to find them in the middle of chaos. The storytelling is raw and immersive, and the tsunami sequence itself, one of the most intense disaster scenes ever put to screen. Brutal, haunting, and heartbreakingly real. But what really sets this film apart is the human element. It's about a family torn apart and fighting to reunite, not with dramatic heroics, but with sheer heart and willpower. Naomi Watts absolutely stuns with her performance. It earned her Oscar and Golden Globe nominations for a reason. And a young Tom Holland, yes, our future Spider-Man, gives a surprisingly powerful performance as Lucas. Sure, it follows some familiar disaster movie beats, but The Impossible rises above with its emotional depth and real-life weight. It reminds you that survival isn't just physical, it's emotional too. This one will leave you shaken, inspired, and probably reaching for tissues. A must-watch. Number 1, The Poseidon Adventure, 1972. All right, coming in at number 1 is an absolute classic that basically defined the disaster movie genre. The Poseidon Adventure, released way back in 1972 and directed by Ronald Neame. This film is still talked about today for good reason. Based on the novel by Paul Gallico, the story throws us aboard the luxurious SS Poseidon on New Year's Eve. But the celebration quickly turns into chaos when a massive tsunami flips the ship upside down. From there, it becomes a gripping race for survival as a small group of passengers, led by the determined Reverend Frank Scott, played by Gene Hackman, must crawl, climb, and fight their way through flooded passageways, burning corridors, and total destruction, all in the hopes of reaching the surface through the ship's hull. What makes this film a standout even decades later is how well it blends intense action with real human emotion. Every moment counts, and every decision feels life or death. The special effects were groundbreaking for their time and still manage to hold up today. Not to mention the tension, which is just relentless. Honestly, if you're a fan of disaster thrillers and haven't seen the Poseidon Adventure yet, you're missing out on a true landmark. It's suspenseful, emotional, and full of raw survival energy. One of those rare films where the characters actually matter as much as the chaos around them. And there you have it. From towering waves to collapsing cities, these disaster movies on Prime Video will keep your heart racing and your eyes glued to the screen. Whether you're into emotional survival stories or epic spectacles, there's something here for every thrill seeker. If you enjoyed this list, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and help me reach 1,000 subscribers. It really motivates me to keep bringing you more binge-worthy picks. Also, let me know in the comments which disaster movie shook you the most, or did I miss your favorite? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there.